back to another episode, another live stream, I should say, another episode. And today we're doing part 2 of the horror collection, which is right here. So last time, I'll walk you over here. That's Kitty. I know you guys like to see Kitty. Right down here, last time we talked about these two shelves, basically, of horror. And it carries over to this entire shelf over here. Just so everybody has an idea of the landscape here. And so what I'm going to do in this live stream here today is talk about the box sets on the top. What's up, Ralph Rosa? Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. I'm going to talk about these box sets, talk about some of the movies in them, and then I'm going to talk about this shelf right here. And the way I think I'm going to do it is 2 shelves a day. So these 2 I'm going to do today. This will be the third part. These 2 will be the 4th part. These 2 will be the 5th part. And then I'll probably try to get all 3 in the 6th part, the 3 bottom ones. What's up, Jolly Good? Thank you for tuning in. 4th of July was good. All I did was chill and play some games and hang out with my brother. I did hang out with the family earlier in the day, but it was very chill, very nice. So before we get started here, guys, I just want to say thank you to everybody who tunes into this or watches this on the archive video. If you're new to the channel and want to see more live streams like this or videos like this, feel free to hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell for notifications. And also, what else? The thumbs up. That's what I was missing. If you guys could give this live stream a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. But we're not going to waste much time. We're going to dig right in. I have pretty poor lighting over here, honestly. But I've got all the lights on that I can. And so we're going to get started, guys. All right. So a lot of cool box sets up here, a lot of which are still sealed. Because a lot of these movies I watched on DVD for many years before. Oh, there's a little spider web up there. Spider webs all over the place. We've got Gamera, the Showa era. This set, I think, was released as 2 separate sets, and then there was one. I don't remember exactly how these were released. Whatever I bought initially was not the complete Gamera set. So I got this, which is the Showa era. This is when the brunt of the films came out. So you have 2 films per disc there, save for the one with Gamera, the original Gamera film there. It's Gamera, but, you know, in America, we say Gamera. Never heard of it. No, this is not a cartoon, even though it's got very nicely painted, animated artwork here. This is a kaiju series. This was an answer, we'll say, to Gojira, to Godzilla, which came out in '54. Gamera came out a few years later. I want to say it might have been the early 60s, the first Gamera film. Let's see. Of course, it doesn't. You guys know I love when it doesn't say what dates, what years these things came out. 65. So it came out 11 years after the original Godzilla. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen too much of the Showa era. I think I've seen the original and the second film. I'm savoring the rest. The Heisei era, however, I've seen the trilogy, which is absolutely incredible, by Shusuke Kaneko, who is one of the best kaiju directors, in my opinion, of all time. He did the Gamera trilogy from the 90s, as well as Giant All-Out Monsters Attack. I sometimes get that title wrong, but the one with Ghidorah, Mothra, and Godzilla. So Heisei era is awesome, and I love these 3 films. They're some of my favorite kaiju films, some of my favorite monster movies of all time. I love them very much. And Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe, I want to say is the last one that they made. Nope. No, Guardian of the Universe is the first of the trilogy. Second was Attack of Legion, and then Revenge of Iris. The villain in this one is Gyaos, you know, the pterodactyl-like things. And Gamera the Brave down here. This is the only one I haven't seen, and as of this date, the last Gamera film to be produced, which is a shame. And we're all still clamoring, like we've been for many decades now, for Gamera versus Godzilla. I'm not sure we'll ever get that. Nope, these are DVDs, Jolly Good. I'm sorry, these are Blu-rays, Jolly Good. Yes, Blu-rays for sure. Mr. Bob, what's going on? I'm doing good. I hope you are as well. We just got started here, so we're talking about the box sets. Yeah, it gets a little funny here, so I'm going to be careful as I balance multiple things. I'm standing on one leg on a step ladder. Chucky, complete 7 movie collection. Complete is erroneous at this point. It was complete when this came out, but not any longer. This has 1 through 7, starting with Child's Play, going to Cult of Chucky, which I actually haven't seen. I haven't seen Cult of Chucky. I've seen all of them up to that point. Love Child's Play. Love Child's Play 2 even more. I like Child's Play 3. Bride of Chucky, I absolutely love. Might be my favorite Chucky movie. Seed of Chucky, I despise. I think it's a mess of a movie and very poorly directed and shot. And then Curse of Chucky, which was a nice return to form, a nice, simple, almost haunted house story. It kind of beckons, is a callback to the second film in ways where Chucky's just wreaking havoc in this home where he finds himself. There's a cool element with a girl in a wheelchair, which definitely creates some very intense sequences, very tense sequences. I haven't seen Cult of Chucky. I've heard pretty good things about it, so I'll check that out at some point. But you gotta love the lenticular little, 3D lenticular slipcover there. Here we have a set that I got when it came out. I sold off my existing Blu-ray set, which wasn't as good as, obviously, the work that Arrow does, so I sold that off. I think it was Mill Creek that put Daimajin out. This is the Daimajin trilogy. This is Japanese kaiju. This is like a big stone guardian who comes to life to protect the people of the village against tyranny and all that kind of stuff. And there's 3 of these films: Daimajin, Return of Daimajin, and Wrath of Daimajin. And I've only seen the first one. It's very good, though, and very unique in terms of its genre. I think it is a kaiju film, but it's not a giant monster per se. It's like a big golem kind of guardian statue. I don't know, kind of interesting, and an interesting and welcome twist to the kaiju genre. And those came out, I believe, in the 60s. Have I seen the Child's Play remake? Yes, I have, which we will actually be talking about. I thought I had it. Oh, I do. Okay, yeah, we'll be talking about that soon. The Chucky remake, you liked it? Well, I respect, obviously, the opinion. I wasn't too thrilled. I saw it in theaters day one, and I thought it had some good things going for it, like Mark Hamill as the voice. I thought that was pretty unique. I like the AI technology angle. I just didn't think it was executed as well as it could have been. I thought about half the kills were worth a shit. The other kills were pretty mediocre and quick and, did not leave an impression. But I do remember the scene in the shopping mall or whatever where am I remembering this right? There's helicopters going off and chopping people up. I don't know. I thought it was okay. Middle of the road, 2.5 out of 5. But certainly my least favorite. I'd say Seed of Chucky is still my least favorite because I really don't like that movie. But yeah. All right, moving on. So recently I had to sell off my giant special edition Dawn of the Dead, which had all the cuts and everything. I think this still has all the cuts. I had to downgrade, guys. So I made about $100 on that set, and then I got this. I made $150 on the set, and then I got this, so I made about $100 profit. But this is still UHD. It has Blu-rays in it as well, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure how many cuts this has. One thing I liked about the other set that I ended up getting rid of was it had so many cuts. Yeah, theatrical cut, extended, can cut, and Argento cut. Actually, that's pretty much everything I need. So yeah, I remember doing the research at the time, but it's been a while. Obviously, Dawn of the Dead, one of the great classic horror films of all time, and I definitely needed this, at least one of the nice special edition second sight versions. I no longer have the super big one that's double, and it has the book and all the extra features and stuff, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And I'm still grateful that I have the film in any capacity, especially on 4K. Here we have The Exorcist, the complete anthology. This is obviously a really cool set here, and I think this one's getting a little hard to find because it compiles all 5, quote-unquote, of the Exorcist films. I know there's a new one now, or whatever, and the last film here, the 4th film in this franchise, had 2 completely different theatrical cuts. Yes, 2 cuts by 2 different directors that went to theaters. I've only seen one of those cuts. That would be the Rennie Harlan cut. I've yet to see the Paul Schrader cut. But I sell my stuff on eBay when I do sell. Obviously I don't sell very often, but I have a bit of a side business where it helps me fund the collection. So eBay, the Bored Cyborg movies, actually, I have over there. So you could check out my store. Not much up right now, a little over 100 items. And yeah, I look for out-of-print stuff and sell it as cheap as I can. I'm usually the cheapest on eBay at the time that I post it. So if somebody has an out-of-print movie that's like $12, I'll put mine at $10.99 or something. You know what I mean? But anyway, so we have the original Exorcist, which is obviously one of the great films of all time and one of my favorite horror movies. Might sound trite and, cliche because it's such a classic, but it still holds up. It's remarkable. And it's actually an excellent adaptation of the novel by, what's his name? William Peter Blatty, which I have read and I think is arguably even better than the film. But both hold their own in their own respective mediums, and I don't like to compare across medium like that. It makes no sense to me. Books are not movies. But I love the book, and I love the film. Exorcist II: The Heretic is not a great movie. It's a pretty rough film, if I'm being completely honest. Every time I watch it, I go into it thinking, well, I'm going to try to get something else out of this, but I always get the same thing, which is just a mediocre sequel that takes some risks that don't pay off and a few that do, but overall, it's not very memorable, frankly. Exorcist 3, however, brings it back and doesn't quite approach the level of quality from the first film, but it comes pretty close. It does enough new things. I think William Peter Blatty actually wrote this sequel. He may have even directed it, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's true to his vision of what the world of The Exorcist is. And it has some great jump scares in a time where they weren't relying on jump scares, but it has the nurse with the shears. That's this famous scene. And it shocked the hell out of me the first time I watched it in my teens. I do remember. But here we have Rennie Harlin. I forget who directed which one, frankly. That won't stick to my mind. But we have Exorcist, the beginning. I want to say that was Rennie Harlin, and then Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist. I've only seen one of those, the Rennie Harlin one. I thought it was actually not bad. I kind of liked it more than Heretic, if I'm being honest, the second one. So I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing Paul Schrader's. Such an anomalous situation for cinema where two renowned directors with two different actually the same script, basically. Two renowned directors direct the same movie, just in their own respective styles. And I think it's actually a pretty cool class of film to see how much a director actually matters, how much their vision actually matters, which I would imagine is quite a bit. Here we have the awesome Friday the 13th set with all the swag in it. Yeah, we got the camp, Crystal Lake patch, whatever the hell this is, 3D glasses, and of course a little booklet and the films. So I was happy to finally get this. I remember this came into the bookstore around the time I left the bookstore, and I got a really good deal on it, obviously because of my discount. And I was thrilled to own this and add it to the collection because it just compiles, I want to say, 12 films. I mean, that's as good as it gets right there. All right, here we have, these are alphabetical, but I'm going to go a little out of order here. Let's check in on the comments. Nice set. Thanks, Ralph Rosa. I appreciate that. Dean says, good evening. What's up, Dean? How's it going, my friend? Thanks for tuning in before bedtime. I know horror is not my thing. Also, I'm not interested in the Banana Splits movie because I haven't heard great things about this movie. Says Jolly Good. Oh, it's a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Interesting. What's up, Dave? Thank you for tuning in. We're just rolling with the Blu-ray collection, the horror Blu-ray collection, part 2. Here we have a Nightmare on Elm Street collection. This compiles all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I always forget that. 7 Nightmare on Elm Street films. I suppose there's 8 with the remake, which I'm not even sure that I own. I might own it because I'm a stupid, stubborn completionist, but yeah, I do. Of course I do. Anyway, I love all of these films, honestly. I'll say 4 through 6 get a little conflated in my mind. I can't differentiate them because I've not seen them enough. I've only seen them a couple times. I love Wes Craven's Nightmare. That's really, you want to see where the ideas of Scream started to formulate? It's in New Nightmare. A lot of the same tropes, a lot of the same ideas, the deconstructive sort of nature of the film, all of it is there, which would lay the groundwork for his Scream about a year or two later. Nightmare is obviously a classic. 2, I like 2. 3 is everyone's favorite and probably my favorite. It's the most fun. It's got the best lines, the best characters. 4 is a direct sequel in many ways, and it's a good one. I like all of these films. What can I say? They're all fun. And Freddy is my favorite out of the big 3. You know, Freddy, Michael Myers, and Jason. Freddy is easily my favorite because he speaks for one. And he makes fun of people as he's killing them, and his jokes and his quips are so clever, and he's a full character, where I've always felt that Michael Myers and Jason are not full characters, because they can't... Oh, no! They can't express themselves. That sucks. Well, this just took a plunge. That's why it's like a precarious situation up here. Let's see. Let's see if I can get it up there. Yeah, okay, that's a little safer. This isn't gonna fall like that, so. I watched it fall. It fell pretty flat, so everything's fine. Let's see. Yeah, tell me about it. All right, here we've got all right, we've got the Fly collection here, which I was so thrilled to see that Scream Factory put this out. It's the complete set, actually, of the Fly movies. So, let's see here. I'll pull this one out. And I'm only talking about the movies, don't worry. The Fly 2, Curse of the Fly, the original Fly, and Return of the Fly. I've only seen The Fly and these two, obviously, the remake and its sequel. I love the remake, obviously one of the best horror films of all time. This is no slouch. This is a classic film here that I really love, but takes a more darkly humorous approach, even satirical approach at points. Help me! You know, that kind of thing. Yes, Jeff Goldblum, and then Eric Stoltz was in this one as Goldblum's son, technically, and character-wise. This has some incredibly disturbing moments that almost eclipse the disturbing moments in The Fly in their own right. It's a little cheap. I won't go into why I think it's cheap, but because it's a spoiler. But yeah, The Fly 2, directed by Chris Wallace, the guy who did the effects, the incredible, some of the best effects of all time on the Fly from '86. He would come back and direct this film and obviously do all of the effects for this one too. So the effects still hold up remarkably well, just not directed as sharply as Cronenberg directed. And then I still need to see the two. Fly, original Fly, I think from '58, right? The original Fly sequels. So, you know, I savor these things. Let's see. Simpsons Treehouse parody. Honestly, I've never seen much of the Simpsons Treehouse. I've heard so many good things. One of these days, I'd like to rectify that and watch some of them. Maybe next Halloween. Here we have the one that just took a tumble and didn't get too badly damaged. I bought it used anyway, so... This is the awesome set that Scream Factory put out. Rec 1, Rec 2, Rec 3, and Rec, you guessed it, 4. Apocalypse. Apocalypse and Genesis, 2 subtitles that have never been used for any other movies in the history of mankind. So very creative there. But that's not what's important. What is important is one of the best, or two of the best found footage films of all time. I like The Simpsons, Dave. I've just never really dug into it. I was a South Park kid. You know, I was born in '88, so South Park was more my era, I always felt. But yes, Rec 1 is one of the great horror films of all time, and definitely, easily one of the best found footage horror films of all time. Rec 2 is like, I always say, the Aliens to Rec's Alien. It's bigger, more bombastic, more action, more violence. It's crazy, kinetic and fast and frenetic. It's awesome. 3 and 4 I've yet to see, but hey, I think they're both directed by Paco Plaza and Jaume Balaguero, respectively, or maybe the fourth one isn't. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. Is the first Rec in English dub? I'm hoping that the English dub is not on this because I don't like the English dub. Obviously, I want to watch it in Spanish. But I would imagine it probably is for most releases, yeah. I'm not exactly sure, though. I guess we could find out here. Spanish with English. Yeah, it doesn't look like it has the English because, yeah, Scream Factory's not going to mess around with that. They know that horror fans want it. No, I'm not Spanish. Although I do speak a bit of Spanish because I've been studying for years, but and I could read Spanish and things like that. But no, I'm Italian, Irish, but American. I was born here, so I'm American. I'm American. Here we have Halloween, the complete collection, Italiano, si, and Irish. My friends used to refer to me as a McGuinea. Like Mick is the derogatory term, and then Guinea, so they call me a McGuinea. But anyway, so this is Halloween. This compiles all of the Halloween films from John Carpenter's classic original film to Rob Zombie's classic sequel to an original film remake. No, I'm just kidding. Halloween 2 is garbage. I like his first Halloween, but the Halloween 2, not great. Oh, Long Island. Nice. Yeah, I grew up in Stamford, so literally when we'd go to the beach, we didn't swim, but we'd go to the beach and we could see Long Island from where we were. I grew up right on the Long Island Sound there. So we were neighbors, and we didn't even know it. Jolly good. But Halloween, I'm not huge on the sequels, like 4 through 6. I like H2O. Resurrection's fun and stupid. The Halloween reboot, I like some of the things that Rob Zombie does, even though I'm not a fan of explaining the origin of killers or superheroes. Usually, I think he did it pretty deftly in this, and it didn't take up too much of the runtime, as far as I can remember. All I remember about Halloween 2 is, like, unicorns. I don't know why unicorns were in a Halloween movie, but I have to watch it again. It's been a long time. Yeah, is horror my favorite genre, asks Dave. If I had to choose one genre to watch for the rest of my life, it probably would be horror, because I feel like horror encompasses all of the genres effectively. There's action, there's comedy, there's, psychological thriller, paranoid thriller. There's all types of, even romance. There's some romantic horror films like Crimson Peak, I would probably choose horror, but honestly, I haven't watched a horror film in like 6 months. That's kind of the way I am. I'll watch crime films for 2 months. I'll watch 70s Shaw Brothers films for 2 months, Japanese cinema for 2 months. I am getting the itch for horror again, and this is certainly contributing to that, doing these live streams here. So I've pulled out a couple horror movies to dig into soon. Oh, and I'm sure some of you are wondering what my favorite Halloween film of all time is, and get ready to be pissed off because, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a contrarian by nature, Season of the Witch is my favorite. I think Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween is an absolute classic. It's perfectly shot, perfectly paced, acted, everything is there. I just think because it is the progenitor of the American slasher in many ways, the one that people copied the most, I'll say, Black Christmas, things came before it. But I think it falls into the category of like where I put Psycho. I think they're great classic films, but they just don't hold up as well anymore because I think other films later have done things better. That doesn't take away from the fact that they did them first, and I recognize that. I appreciate it. It's Halloween is a 4 to 4.5 for me. Now you know what? It's a 4.5, and so is Season of the Witch. I adore Season of the Witch. I love the sequel, too. I think the sequel picks up right where the first left off, and it's great. But Season of the Witch does something really unique for me, and I've never really seen a horror film like it that has the balls to just kill kids off en masse. The whole plot revolves around basically killing kids on Halloween. It's a crazy plot, and Tom Atkins is really the centerpiece of this movie, where the eye of the storm, where all this crazy shit's happening around him, and he's trying to figure it out, and he's perfect as sort of the aloof tough guy, with his shirt off and like getting ladies, and it's just so well done. And I love Dan O'Herlihy. Is that the guy who plays I love that there's like Gaelic and Celtic magic. Maybe that's the Irish in me. Maybe I give it a couple extra points for that, but I love Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. It's awesome. I haven't watched Jetsons in donkey's years, Dave says. Yeah, I actually pulled out the movie, the Jetsons movie. I was going to rewatch that soon. Then I found out it was on Blu-ray, and I kind of want the Blu-ray, but can't afford that right now. Here we have Hellraiser. Hellraiser, obviously, the trilogy here is a classic film. I like the second film quite a bit. I think it has even better production design, set design, and makeup. Not saying that the first doesn't have great makeup. It absolutely does. One of the great effects I've ever seen of the skeleton rebuilding itself. from the ground up. It's such a cool effect. I would love to know how they did it. I can imagine how they did it, but I'm probably wrong. 2 is awesome, goes down to hell, shows you a whole new sort of side of the Hellraiser universe. And Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, definitely gives us a different vibe of a movie. It's almost getting into that like parodical area, but it's a fun movie with a lot of great creature designs. They introduce a whole bunch of new Cenobites, if I remember correctly, and it's fun. It's a fun movie. I wish there was a Hellraiser set that compiled all of them together, but, you know, there isn't. Jolly Good asks, do you have any cartoon Halloween movies on DVD? Yes, I do, but they are packed up, unfortunately, in a box right now with the rest of my animated DVDs. Sorry. I have everything. I have some of my collection packed up right now because I don't have the money to buy shelves to... Anyway, it's a long story. Times are hard. Especially to be an insane, obsessive collector like I am. Here we have a really cool set here by Arrow. I had to get this when they announced it, and I sold off my DVDs immediately to fund this. And House. Not the Japanese one. Not House. The Japanese film. But this is... I forget who directs this, frankly. Is it... Okay, Steve Miner directed the first film. There you go. House is just a fun, quirky, haunted house horror comedy that balances those two things very well. It's very funny at points. I love the neighbor played by... Oh, I forget his name. You'd know him if you saw him. But the neighbor, William Catt, plays the guy that moves into this home. And things just get bananas. It's one of those quirky 80s horror movies. It reminds me of Extro, where Extro just goes places where you would never expect. House does the same thing, and I gotta be honest, House 2 does it even more, despite it being less of a horror film and more of a straight comedy. Like a comedy horror as opposed to a horror comedy, if that makes sense to anybody. And then House 3, the horror show, I have seen Lance Henriksen and Brian James, the late actor, and who was in Blade Runner as, you know, one of the replicants who's being interviewed in the beginning of the film. And honestly, it's a lot like Shocker. It's kind of like a guy gets put to death, he comes back to life and wreaks havoc, and that's Brian James's character. It's a good movie, just really has nothing to do with House at all, so I don't know why they called it House. And then House 4, I've yet to see. It's called The Repossession. Sounds at least like it's about a house, so that's good. And I've always loved that cover, the simplicity of that cover. It captures the spirit of the films, that's for sure. House is an underrated quadrilogy, if you can even call it that. George Wendt, thank you, Shanks. No, that's spot on. Very good, yeah. George Wendt. Dave asks, Silence of the Lambs isn't exactly considered horror, is it? I consider it horror. The Academy doesn't consider it horror, but the Academy can suck my ass with a straw. So, it's a horror film. It's a psychological horror film, for Christ's sake. That's what I say. Sorry, this topic gets me heated. I've talked about it quite a bit. But the Academy says it wasn't a horror film. Well, the Academy represents a very small amount of film watchers, aka people who make the films. So I fucking hate that. Anyway, nothing against, obviously, the questions, but I have something against the Academy, that's for sure. And the way they try to be elitist about art. I don't give a fuck if they make it. I know what... Excuse... I need some water. I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy here. I got this a little cheaper because it has the stupid, 18 and up. I think this is a Region B. Yes, I got this a little bit cheaper because, well, why not? I have an all-region player, so I might as well utilize that. And this looks just like the American set, and I got it for much cheaper. So this is I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy. I've only seen the first film. How do I feel about the first film? I think it's a classic. I think it's an Argento-inspired, simple neo-slasher from that era. Post-Scream slasher that kind of digs its heels back into traditionalism and brings us a really solid teen slasher based on a Lois Duncan novel, young adult novel from the late 80s, early 90s, I want to say. So, the sequels I don't hear too many good things about, but I would like to check them out at some point. I know, I did see I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting a remake. Yeah, whatever. Whatever. I don't care. Just said, let's go. I see, Dave. 15 and up in Australia. This cover looks like Paddington. Dave says, I saw the first two. First is the best. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I agree with that. Yeah, I wish there was a trilogy for Urban Legend. Maybe there is now on Blu-ray. I'm not exactly sure. Because I like that trilogy quite a bit. I think they get worse and worse, but I think they're all solid. Bloody Mary, it's okay. And so we have Leprechaun, a series that I have. So I grew up watching Leprechaun with my buddies when I was in middle school and high school, and we loved these movies. We knew exactly what they were. We weren't stupid. We knew they were ridiculous, over-the-top B horror movies. And then I get older, into my 20s and into my 30s. I work at bookstores, and everybody starts, all the younger people and even people my age start shitting on the Leprechaun films. And, you know, they suck, this and that, they're shitty. It's like, what do you expect from a Leprechaun franchise where you have a killer leprechaun who rhymes and kills people? I mean, what do people expect? This is camp. This is pure camp. The directors and filmmakers knew what they were doing. You think they made a film called Leprechaun in the Hood and Back to the Hood because they wanted to make serious horror films? I swear, maybe you guys haven't experienced this, but people around my orbit in real life have shit on the Leprechaun movies for a long time, and I don't understand it. I love all of them for different reasons. I think they're great. I would say the first three are the best if you're looking at them subjectively. I actually like Leprechaun Origins quite a bit. Or not Origins. What's the one? Might as well show you guys now since it's technically part of the set. Yeah, Leprechaun Returns. That one's by Stephen Kostansky. Stephen Kostansky, who directed Psycho Goreman. And this one's a return to form, nice and simple, fun. I like the actor they got to do Warwick Davis's Leprechaun. It's not Warwick Davis. And honestly, without Warwick Davis, these movies wouldn't be as alluring to me as they are. I think he definitely steals the show. He's the reason to go to watch these films. They're fun. Whatever. You know, I think people have given him a hard time. Dave, you never properly watched them? Well, there you go. This, you know, maybe next St. Patty's Day or something. Yeah, 1 through 4 are the best. I agree with you. I like Space quite a bit. It's just not as good as 1 through 3 in my opinion, but it's so ridiculous and over the top. I think it's so much fun. Returns is good. I agree. Ralph Rosa. Dave says Warwick has or had a funny show called Small World. Interesting. Didn't know about that. Yeah, watch it on St. Patty's Day, right? All right, here we have George Romero, a very interesting and eclectic kind of set here. George Romero, it's called Between Night and Dawn. So these are the 3 feature films he did between Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Living Dead. The Crazies, There's Always Vanilla, and Season of the Witch. I don't think There's Always Vanilla is, I think it's more of a comedy, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a drama. I don't think it's a horror film. Season of the Witch sounds like a horror film, and it has light horror elements from what I understand, but I've never seen it. And then The Crazies, which got remade, 15 years ago or so? Pretty good remake, actually. This is the original The Crazies, which is a pandemic sort of breaks out, and it's just about the characters and how they deal with it, how the government deals with it, and it's, you know, drawing allusions to almost like Hitler's Nazis and Hitler's Germany. Very interesting film, and one that I have to give a rewatch. I think I like the remake a little bit better. I know that's heresy. I just think the remake has a grit about it, has an edge to it, and a pace to it, a very kinetic pace to it that I think is impressive for a remake of an old 70s horror film that not many people even knew about. Here we have the greatest trilogy of all time. My buddy Larry got this for me. Larry, if you're watching, what's up? Thank you so much for this terrible, terrible trilogy of films. I've seen 2 of them, and I haven't brought myself to watching the 3rd one. I've only watched these with friends. It's the only way to do it. There's no way you could watch these alone, unless you are an absolute masochist. What can I say? These are some of the worst films of all time. They suck. They're shitty. They're ass. They're poo-poo. But hey, they're fun to watch with friends. Barely. If I'm being honest. Barely. At least you could talk about other things while you're watching that. And that's exciting. Here we have 2 Paul Naschy collections here I'll just read off the. If I'm being honest, I don't think I've seen any of these films yet. Oh no, I've seen Night of the Werewolf. It's awesome werewolf film, Spanish werewolf film. Horror Rises from the Tomb, that's a Dracula film. Human Beasts, Vengeance of the Zombies, Blue Eyes of the Broken Doll. I love these titles. And Naschy was kind of like the Lon Chaney of Spain, and was very popular, made dozens and dozens of horror films that were almost, yeah, we'll say influenced by the Universal Monsters run of the 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah, exactly, Jolly Good. I'm a big fan of the AVGN. And Paul Naschy Collection, Volume 2. He's got a Hunchback of the Morgue, Hunchback film there. Exorcismo, Exorcism. A Dragonfly for Each Corpse. I love that title. The Werewolf and the Yeti. And The Devil's Possessed. So that one I haven't even opened yet. So I've only seen a couple Paul Naschy films. A couple I have on DVD too. But I haven't really dug too deep into his work. I'm, again, savoring it. All right. All right, this one is important, so it's important to me, and it's a cool set. So I want to show you guys this. This is Phantasm. It collects all 5 films, and it comes with the sphere, which is so cool. Look at that. Isn't that neat? Look at that. You get cinematic with that, right? What if I just shot a whole movie from, like, the perspective of this sphere? That'd be cool. Anyway, so underneath here, I'm not going to dismantle it. I don't need to, but we've got a nice little making of book here. Nice balls. Thanks, Jolly Good. I appreciate that. Sorry for my dirty sense of humor. I can't help myself. Phantasm. So Phantasm 1, obviously, is an absolute classic. These are Blu-rays, yes. Phantasm 1 is not only a classic, but it's also one of my favorite films of all time. Films of all time, not just horror films. I love its independent spirit. I think it exudes from the screen. I think it's one of the most economical horror movies ever made, with, you know, the sort of atmosphere that it's able to conjure up on such a small amount of money. They had the right actors, the perfect chemistry between the actors, and Reggie obviously is a legend in the horror circles for good reason. One of my favorite scenes in any horror movie is the impromptu, almost improvisational feeling scene that Reggie and the main character, I'm forgetting his name, Mike, the adult main character, they just start jamming out. Like, before the shit really hits the fan, they just start jamming out, improvising like this little song, this little singer-songwriter duet, and it's just so wholesome and heartfelt, and punctuates this film in such an interesting way that I think many horror films struggle with those tonal changes, especially in the modern era. But that tonal change, just for that brief moment, it worked. It was almost like a dream within the nightmare. And it's such a beautiful film. I love the film. I love the music. I love everything about it. And all the performances. Angus Scrimm, obviously, is another legend that was born from this franchise as the Tall Man. And Phantasm 2 is more good stuff. It's just a little bit more heavy on the action and less heavy on the atmosphere. It always reminds me of Evil Dead. It's a little bit more Evil Dead and less Phantasm, but it's still awesome and still like a 4 out of 5 for a horror film. It's awesome, and we see Reggie get to kick some motherfucking ass, and it's great. 3 and 4, I do like. I conflate the two in my head. I've only seen them once, but I remember walking away thinking these are pretty good. And Don Coscarelli directed all 4 of them, actually. And then the 5th one, I gotta be honest, I haven't seen. And I'm pretty sure he directed the 5th one too, didn't he? Or did somebody else direct that? Ravager, I haven't seen. I'm not expecting great things from it. I wasn't necessarily excited that it was coming out. I thought the quadrilogy was kind of perfect as it was. But never matters what I think. Here we go. These were out of print at a time. There was a time where this was like a $150 Blu-ray set here. These two, I'm not sure what the status of these in terms of if they're still in print is, but these are some, if my house was burning, I would grab these right here. Vincent Price is the only human I've ever thought of tattooing on my body, his face, because I fucking love Vincent Price. I'm not going to do that, but I have thought about it. I love Vincent Price. He is one of the great actors of all time, one of the great horror thespians. And he was just larger than life, his persona. And the films here, a lot of the Corman stuff on this one, the stuff he did with Corman, which I think are some of his best works, And The Pit and the Pendulum, the Fall of the House of Usher, Mask of the Red Death. All of those are great. Maybe they're not so much like their original novels, especially The Pit and the Pendulum and The Raven, but which is on another one. But I still love them for what they are. The Abominable Dr. Phibes is one of my favorite Vincent Price films. I think it's one of his best performances, despite him not technically speaking. He does speak, but he can't speak. Anyway, got to see the film. It's heavily influenced the Saw franchise. There's no doubt in my mind that James Wan was a fan of The Abominable Dr. Phibes, because this man who gets his wife taken from him in a car accident goes through all these convoluted ways of killing people, torturing people, getting people to repent for their sins, to admit their wrongdoing because the doctors, botched his wife's recovery, and he's not too happy about that. And he wreaks havoc. It's fantastic. The Haunted Palace is kind of a mix of Lovecraft and Poe, and it's equal parts that. It really is in an impressive way that I feel like Corman, at the peak of his directing ability, could really, really pulled off well. And then Witchfinder General. A lot of people love this film. I do too. It's also known as The Conqueror Worm. And it shows Vincent Price as a true tyrant, as the Witchfinder General who goes around and finds witches, obviously. It's like a Salem witch kind of vibe. I'm not exactly sure when it takes place, to be fair. It's been a while, folks, for some of these. The Raven. I love The Raven, even though it has very little to do with the Edgar Allan Poe poem. But I do love it because I love the cast. I love its quirkiness, its sense of humor. Peter Lorre, Vincent Price, Boris Karloff. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. I'm pretty sure Karloff was in that one, wasn't he? Hold on, guys. Sorry. Yeah, Karloff. And Jack Nicholson actually was in this. So, Last Man on Earth, all based off of the Richard Matheson novel, I Am Legend, which Last Man on Earth is the best adaptation of I Am Legend, but every single adaptation of I Am Legend gets the book completely wrong. They just don't understand what Matheson was trying to say, or they don't care. The whole point of the book is that the main character, who's the last man on Earth, quote unquote, becomes the villain of the story by the end because all of the vampires are afraid of him. The world is full of vampires. The main character is the last man on Earth, literally, or as far as he knows. And now the vampires are starting to create legends about the fearsome, brutal, cruel human that goes around slaying vampires. He becomes the legend that he was hunting. And all of the adaptations miss that. With that said, it's still a pretty good movie. I still like the film. Comedy of Terrors, Dr. Phibes Rises Again. Still good, not as good as the OG. Tomb of Leger, I have yet to see. The Return of the Fly, actually I have 2 copies of that. And the absolute classic, House on Haunted Hill. One of the best Vincent Price movies for sure. And a movie that I tend to watch, the week of Halloween, almost every year at this point. I just think it's so perfectly spooky and funny and creepy and just such a great movie. Here is a weird one. I always thought the third collection was a bit of a stretch because it doesn't have 6 or 7 films. It has, 4 and then a documentary. So, strange, but hey, we have Master of the World, which is certainly not a horror film. We have Tower of London, which is Diary of a Madman, I've never seen. Cry of the Banshee, I've yet to see. That's a later Price film, 1970 there. And then we have this documentary, which I'm sure is lovely, of An Evening with Edgar Allan Poe. And let me see. Dave says, oh, the Vincent Price would be a cool tat. And did Goosebumps come out on Blu-ray? No, not the original show. Not that I know of. I mean, to be fair, it was shot in standard definition, so I'm not sure how much they could do. They could put it on Blu-ray, but they're not going to be able to clean it up too much. It's like Are You Afraid of the Dark? Things like that. I don't think are going to be able to be cleaned up on Blu-ray too much, but I'm no expert. Oh, the movie. Yeah, the one with Jack Black. Yeah, that one came out on Blu-ray. Yeah, for sure. And its sequel, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I got to put that back in the Phantasm box. Here we have the Puppet Master set, 12-film Blu-ray collection. So every couple years, I look into Full Moon Entertainment and what kind of deals they're doing, and usually they have like you know, spend $50 on a year of streaming, full moon streaming, and you get something for free. So I did that a couple years ago. I got a full free year of full moon, which I admittedly didn't use too much. But then I got this incredible Puppet Master set, which I would imagine goes for quite a bit more than $50 these days, despite it being incomplete because they keep fucking making these movies. I'm completely lost on this series, but I want to sit down and watch them at some point, hence why I own them. I've only seen the first two, though. The first one I'm not crazy about. The second one I like more than the first. But I don't even know if I like this series, if I'm being honest. I'm sure there's fun to be had here. But we'll go through them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Curse of the Puppet Master. Retro Puppet Master. Puppet Master The Legacy. Puppet Master Axis of Evil. Puppet Master Axis Rising. Puppet Master Axis Termination. Arcana of the Puppet Master, which I would assume is some sort of documentary or, you know, that kind of thing, talking about the series. And I don't have The Littlest Reich. I would like that one on Blu-ray. That would be a cool one to have. I think there's a couple other Puppet Master films, and at this point, so just completely nuts. Completely crazy. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right, so that's shelf number 1, which is comprised mostly of... Let me try that again. That's shelf number 1, which is comprised mostly of box sets here, or this shelf right here. In one moment, I am just gonna tune in, check on the chat, see how you guys are doing. Hey, Lucy, no problem. You're not late. You're always right on time. Isn't that what Gandalf says? A wizard is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. Something along those lines. But thank you, Lucy, for tuning in. You know, it means the world. I thank everybody for checking out this live stream. If you're new to the live stream, feel free to hit the subscribe button. There'll be plenty of more like this, and the little bell for notifications if you want to be notified as to when I do live streams. And please hit the thumbs up button. We've got 16 people in here right now, and we're getting ready to get back into the horror collection here, the second shelf for the day, and that'll take up the rest of our time. And if we can get that thumbs up number to 10, that would be awesome. You know I would greatly appreciate it. I'm not going to bug you anymore about it, though. Let's get back into the horror. Let's see. Dave says, oh, hey, Aiden. Thanks for tuning in. New viewer. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying the collection videos. Thanks for tuning in. I do not have the specialized editions of the classic Star Wars trilogy. I would like to own those in bootleg form. That would be swell. But I do not. I've frankly never seen them. I don't know what the original effects even look like because I grew up with the VHS box sets, the collector's editions and whatnot. There was a show here in Australia, Dave Mustaki says, when I was a kid that kind of scared me. It was a computer screen lady that talked in a weird voice. Huh. Reminds me of Ghost Rider in a weird way, but I'm not sure. Gongshi, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. I'm so glad you're enjoying these live streams. It means a lot to me. Thank you, guys. All right, let's jump right into it. Okay, I'm going to move over my... Sorry. All right. So we probably got another 45 minutes or so to talk about this shelf, and then the next part 3 is going to be probably tomorrow or Wednesday. We'll see. But low-budget, weird-ass show. Okay, gotcha. Maybe it wasn't syndicated here. All right, this is going to be a little precarious, but if I do it correctly, I'll be all right. Here we have Castle Freak. Thank you, Ralph. I'm glad you're enjoying the horror collection. There's plenty of more to come, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned because there'll be plenty. Here we have a Stuart Gordon film. Stuart Gordon is one of my favorite horror directors of all time. Definitely one of my favorite directors, just period, of all time. So here is Castle Freak. This is not his best work, but still a damn good movie and very atmospheric. It's got that perfect blend of humor and horror that is very, very idiosyncratic when it comes to Stuart Gordon's direction. How do I say? He's a very idiosyncratic director that has a very unique style that I don't really think many other directors have even approached. It's just very quirky. It makes light of very serious situations, and I love his work. So Castle Freak's no exception. It has a good cast, Barbara Crampton and Jeffrey Combs, so you can't go wrong with that. great makeup, all that. This one, the first time I watched it, I wasn't too fond of it because of the way it was treating its animals in this movie. So I couldn't really look past that. I have a hard time with that in cinema when animals are clearly being exploited or being hurt for the sake of a movie. I don't approve of that. I don't approve of that for humans either, obviously. But any living creature. But yeah, this is directed by, who was it? It was it was Paul Schrader. That's right. Very different kind of movie for Paul Schrader, that's for sure. But it does have his feel, it does have his vibe, which I love. I love Paul Schrader's work. I just wasn't a fan of his horror film here. And theme song by David Bowie, Cat People, and John Hurd, Malcolm McDowell, Natasha Kinski, Klaus Kinski's daughter. I wasn't too fond of it, guys. What can I say? Here we have Cat's Eye. I've seen this on DVD, but not on Blu-ray. I picked this up at a grocery store years ago, actually, for like $5. I was like, yes, sir. This is an anthology horror film directed by Louis Teague that has a few different stories. I can't say I remember what was in this one. All the anthology films kind of crisscross and conflate in my mind. But Drew Barrymore, I do remember being in this. Did this one have like a little... Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt to remember. Here we have a movie that I think is pretty underrated. The Cell. J-Lo, doing as good as she could possibly do. I wish it was a different actress, frankly, but she's okay in this. She's just wooden all the time. Vince Vaughn is always good. Vincent D'Onofrio is always excellent. And he's really the reason to see this film. He plays a serial killer in which Jennifer Lopez and Vince Vaughn go into the mind of to try to solve the crimes or something like that. Maybe I'm getting some... Let's see. Oh, yeah, the serial killer falls into a coma. So they try to go into his mind, almost Inception-like, to see what's going on in his brain, try to solve the crime. And it's really, really well done. It's a procedural kind of horror mystery film in ways with thriller aspects. And it's directed by Tarsem Singh. So Tarsem Singh did the movie The Fall. The Cell is another excellent movie by him. He also did Selfless, which I think is good, not great. But and The Immortals, which I think is very good. He's a visionary director, and I wish he got more work because he has quite a distinct vision. Jolly Good says, I know you have a sealed copy of Triplets of Belleville. Yes, I do on DVD. Still have that, yep. And Shank says, The Cell is fantastic, extremely underrated. I agree with that. Dave says, I remember my cousin saw that in cinema, but I didn't watch it later on cable. Nightmare horror, absolutely, yeah. It's very, very unique, and I think has some pretty heavy themes and concepts that were used in even bigger films years later, like Inception. Here we have Cheap Thrills. You gotta love that cartoonish cover there. I think it might be it's a reversible cover, and I preferred the more cartoonish one. This movie's not bad. It's a fun little movie. I forget, One night the sound of two friends participating in a series of escalating paid dares to entertain a wealthy couple with a twisted sense of humor. Yeah, so they just kind of go back and forth hurting each other in various ways and outdoing each other, and it just gets absolutely chaotic and insane. It's a black comedy with a lot of gore, and I don't remember exactly what is trying to be said in this film about, like, maybe the lower classes fighting to the death, for the entertainment of the upper classes. Something along those lines. Some sort of class criticism, that's for sure. Here we have Cherry Falls, and once you watch this movie, this title takes on a whole new meaning. And, I guess I could say it. It's not really a surprise, but the plot of this very underrated slasher film that uses the color red in very interesting ways and its themes in very interesting ways. This is about a killer who's going around killing virgins, if I remember correctly, and virgin females. And Brittany Murphy is in this, Michael Biehn, Gabriel Mann, Jay Moore. It's got a great cast, directed by Jeffrey Wright, who does a very good job. This is, for whatever reason, this gets totally undermined when people talk about horror, slashers from the late 90s, early 2000s. You have Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, you have Valentine, things like this. This came out in 2000 and just kind of got buried, I suppose, by all of those other films, and I would argue this is one of the best out of the bunch. If not the second best out of that bunch that I just named. So, behind Scream, of course. It's awesome. Check it out. And Scream Factory put it out. Again, I don't know the status of these movies, whether or not they're in print. The Children, this is a Canadian killer children movie that I think is pretty good. I think yeah, it's a flu-like virus that starts afflicting children, which is pretty interesting. And any movie where kids are, like killers or doing the killing, I think is taboo busting, and I appreciate those movies for what they are. And almost all of the ones I've seen are pretty fun. So here's another one that we're with killer kids, Children of the Corn. Cultish children, kids killing people with all sorts of weapons and in the cornfields. I don't remember much about this film. I just remember images and how much it creeped me out as a child. Maybe that's part of the reason I haven't gone back to it, because I don't want to tarnish that or ruin that sort of mystique. But it's a classic. Linda Hamilton, this is another movie that was big when I was growing up, but has lost its allure over time for sure. But it has about 87 sequels, so. Brittany Murphy, rest in peace. She was King of the Hill, the only voice actress I know. Dave says, yeah, she was awesome in King of the Hill. Yep, there you go. Lucy, have you seen The Children from 1980? The Children. Don't think I have. I think I have it, though. Did Troma put that out? I think Troma put that out on DVD, right? I think I have that. It's a remake from Stephen King. There's a remake from Stephen King. Yeah, well, this was based on a Stephen King short story, and then it got, like I said, 94 sequels, and they're still making them to this day. Maybe not to this day, but they made one a few years ago, that's for sure. And here's the rest of the Children of the Corn series, which admittedly I have not seen. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6 on 3, 4, 5, 6 on Blu-ray. The first one on Blu-ray. Second one I don't have on Blu-ray. Who knows where this falls in the series? And then Genesis here. I think there was 1 or 2 after that. So a series that I do want to dig into, a series that I'm savoring. I like to savor certain franchises. I don't want to ruin it all by watching all of them, because I like to get into franchises. It's fun. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Directed by the great Bob Clark, who did Porky's and Christmas Story and Black Christmas and Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, as well as Death Dream. One of my favorite Bob Clark films. It's awesome. This is a no-budget, super, super campy, little teen, young adult film with zombies and the undead, and it's okay. I'm not crazy about it. I like the ending. I think the ending's pretty killer. The 70s had so many great freeze-frame, slow-mo endings that just blow your mind. Alan Ormsby actually wrote the screenplay here. Ormsby was known for a monster movie host for quite some time, and he wrote some movies as well. But here's Child's Play remake. I've already talked about that one, so I'm gonna skip over that one. Here we have Chopping Mall. Probably the best Jim Wynorski film I've seen. This is the super campy, but very fun and goofy, over-the-top, absurd kills. Basically, these kids, they trespass and go into a mall overnight, and the mall is testing out this new security system with all these AI robots who are just blowing these kids' heads off and arms and limbs off. And again, simple, classic 80s poster there. Absolutely fantastic. You can't go wrong with Chopping Mall. Wynorski would pump out hundreds of movies in the 80s and 90s, but I still think Chopping Mall is one of his finest works. Here we have Christine, a film that... Did I rewatch this pretty recently? I think I did, and I think I liked it quite a bit. This one, every time I watch it, just doesn't really stick with me. I love the filmmaking. Obviously, I love John Carpenter. I love the music. I love the way that the car is shot. You could tell that Carpenter really loved that car. The relationship between the car and the young man. I think it's a pretty damn good film. Just not my favorite Carpenter film. I think it's one of his more commercial films, but I think it's still damn good. Here we have Christmas Evil, a film that I haven't seen since I was a very young teenager. And it's about just a killer Santa Claus who wakes up one day and decides to start slaying people. No pun intended. Christmas Horror Story I watched with my siblings one Christmas Eve. This is a shitty anthology horror film, which has a pretty cool twist at the end, I will say. The twist actually surprised all of us and made it kind of worth it. But the stories themselves are not anything to write home about. Some are better than others. None really stick with me. if I'm being completely honest, and nothing even remotely close to this happens in the movie. There's a character that kind of looks like that, but I wish this was the movie, Santa and this Krampus-like Pan figure, killing, battling to the death. That would have been awesome. Yeah. Here we have Kronos. Kronos is a Guillermo del Toro film. This is a Criterion, of course. And I remember really enjoying this film because it fused horror with mythology and also entomology, of all things. So the insects. There's a lot of insect stuff in this movie that I remember really enjoying because I don't mean like, oh, look at all the cockroaches, they're coming. No, the insects were an integral part of the plot, and it wasn't a gross out thing. It was just sort of like scarabs and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember this being such a unique film by Guillermo del Toro, and one that I clearly need to rewatch because it's been a while. City of the Dead. This movie I haven't seen in a very long time, but I remember watching it and blowing me away for a 1960 black and white film. Christopher Lee. It's a witch movie. It's Salem witch inspired kind of horror film, but it's really good. And for 1960 black and white, man, it looks so crisp and beautiful and clean. So, all right, moving along here. We've got Class of 1984. Not quite a horror film, but I feel like it belongs here. It is a bit of a horror film. It's more of a revenge film. From what I remember, the teacher just kind of has had enough with these fucking kids, and then he just loses it. Idealistic and naive music teacher has moved into a new community with his pregnant wife, only to find his new job is an academic abyss. Appalled by the crime-infested school, Norris soon crosses paths with its teenage kingpin, the shrewd and sadistic blah, blah, blah. Norris setting his sights on reforming Stegman and the young punk declaring war on his teacher, the duo is a collision course. Yeah. And that's really what it is. It's more of like a counterculture exploitation film as opposed to a horror film. But it belongs here because I'm not sure where else I'd put it. I guess crime, but it fits better here. After all, it is Scream Factory. Dave says, remember when Blair Witch came out and they kept saying it was a true story and they really got lost in the woods? Yes. I believed it. I was 11 or 12 years old. In fact, my parents also believed it too. So there you go. Or at least they were pretending like they did. I'm not sure to this day. Crimes for Kibble. What's up? Quality over quantity, in my opinion. What is that in reference to? My collection, or? Because I do have a lot, but I do try to go for quality over quantity. Yes, I don't just pick up anything. That's for sure. I'm curious for you to clarify that. I'm not sure what you mean. What's up, Thanks for tuning in. Haven't seen your name in a while. Thanks for stopping in, and we're getting to the midway point of the second shelf here. It's probably got another half hour or so. This actually probably belongs in kaiju. Yeah, I'll put it down there at some point. That's why I didn't split them up, because of the Cloverfield trilogy here. I want to kind of keep together, despite the first one being kaiju. Second one is certainly not. It's psychological horror, psychological thriller. And then the third one is like sci-fi horror. So they always switch up the genre for these Cloverfield films, which I think is cool. Cloverfield is a found footage kaiju film, and it delivers on all of the promises that it made back when this was doing this incredibly cool marketing campaign, where people were trying to figure out what this monster was. Is it Godzilla? Is it Gamera? Is it a new monster? Is it Yongari? Like, there were all these fan theories about what this creature was, and I was there. I was knee deep in it. I loved it. It created so much excitement for the film. And the film is great. I think it's a great kaiju film. And I love found footage. So combine two things I love very much, like found footage and kaiju, I'm a happy boy. Asks, what is a movie you can't remember the plot of to save your life, no matter how many times you watch it? I feel like I've already talked about a couple of those. There are movies like that. I can't think off the top of my head. I think I named... What did I name? I forgot what I named. Yeah. There are films like that. It's a good question. Michael, what's up, buddy? Child's Play, classic doll horror movie. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just realized I forgot to talk about the Psycho collection here. This compiles 4 films. I wish they had Bates Motel, which is the 5th film and kind of a prequel, if I'm not mistaken. But these are all, or the ones that I've seen, 1 through 3, are all great. I think 2 and 3 were directed by Anthony Perkins himself. 2 is awesome. I actually think I like 2 more than 1, despite recognizing that 1 is an absolute classic. I like 2 a little bit more. It explores the character a little bit more, and it's very interesting, very well done. I love the first 2 Psycho movies. The third one I like too. I haven't seen the fourth or Bates Motel. I do have Bates Motel on DVD though. Yes, Psycho 2 is awesome, isn't it? Crimes for Kibble says, I mean, movies that you really love and want to watch, not just a bunch of crap to fill shelves. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's what I go for. And I've purged over the years, and I used to have a lot of crap, but I got rid of all of it because I'm not going to watch it, frankly. It is definitely quality over quantity, but hey, man, quantity is no joke either. I mean, take a look. Quantity is no joke either. This is a great little paranoid thriller with John Goodman, conspiracy thriller, with an incredible performance by John Goodman, a riveting performance by John Goodman. Good performances all around. Dan Trachtenberg directs this very tense movie. Even though you know how this ends, if you've seen the first film, you still are second guessing yourself and questioning the character's motives up until the very end, when they show you what you've known the whole time. So that's impressive to me, to be able to pull that off. It's impressive. This one, not so much. Here's a film I've seen that I don't remember the plot of. There you go. There's one at least. But I've only seen it once, and, you know, I want to give it another shake. And you know me, I'm a completionist. I got to have the trilogy. Oh, yeah, John Goodman, The Borrowers. I do remember him with that. Which actor's death hit me the hardest? I gotta be honest, I don't mean to sound cold, but I don't know actors. I know the characters they play. You know, I've never shed a tear for an actor dying, I don't think. Never really gotten emotional about it. Yeah, I think there are more important things to direct those emotions. But which one bothered me? I can't say. You know, it doesn't mean that I want them to die. It just means that we have their movies. They will live on forever. I didn't know the human, and thus I don't care. Not to sound callous, because, you know, they're humans, and totally. But I care about the characters they play more so than anything. I think the art speaks separately from the artist. That's just my opinion. Yeah, Carrie Fisher, yeah, for sure. I mean, these things suck, but I don't let it affect my everyday life. That's for sure. I think that's the difference between, for me, I keep an arm's distance from people who we like to think of as our heroes. I think that sets you up that's a recipe for disaster. And all of our heroes have skeletons in their closet. And if they don't now, then they'll live long enough to have those. And that's kind of how I feel about it. We're all imperfect. We're all imperfect people. And, you know, separate the art from the artist, for sure. Clown. This is a movie that actually I enjoy. John Watts, who would direct the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I'm pretty sure, right? Would direct this little independent horror film that was actually produced by Eli Roth. And has some scenes in it that really, really, really stick with me. That involve, we'll say, like multicolored, tie-dye colored paint. And because that's actually how this clown, I don't want to say much, I don't want to spoil much. This is a weird movie that keeps you guessing about what its main character exactly is, the clown character here. And it's a creepy clown movie, one of the better ones I've seen, that is for sure. It is a very creepy movie, Ralph Rosa, yes. Yeah, no problem, Yes, that is one way to look at it. They live forever in the roles they played, and in my opinion, movies are a distillation of life. So they talk about the good things in life, they distill the good things in life into 90 minutes, or the bad things in life, or both, or the ups and downs, the vicissitudes of life. And, you know, I think that is what matters, the characters. You know, there's a reason we remember Gilgamesh. Maybe not everybody knows what Gilgamesh is, but it's the Epic of Gilgamesh, the old Sumerian poem. And we remember Gilgamesh. We don't remember, and he was likely a real person. Same thing with Jesus. Like, we remember these heroes who were real people, but probably the mythology, it doesn't exactly get what the real person was like, I would imagine. But I'm not an expert. This is just my opinion. I'm going out of the realm of what I usually talk about here. But characters, stories, I believe humans are storytellers, all of us by nature. And I believe we're susceptible to stories because it's a good way to distill information and pass it along through generations. And I think religion ties into that, and storytelling in and of itself. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's why, well, frankly, I feel like my calling in life is to tell stories. I just haven't found a great medium for that yet, even though I'm always chipping away. Cockneys versus zombies. Here we've got a fucking zombie film with a bunch of Englishmen, you know. I am not mocking. I love the English accent, especially the Cockney one. I think it's one of the great accents of all time, if you know what I fucking mean. It's such a sharp and lovely English accent. But Cockneys vs. Zombies is exactly what it sounds like. It's a goofy horror comedy cut from the cloth of Edgar Wright. And you can't go wrong with a movie like this. Very Shaun of the Dead, even in its cover, right? But a very nice film, I'll tell you. Here we have The Collector. This is a pretty good movie. One that has waned on me. I liked it when it came out, but I watched it again. I was just like, yeah, this is just as garish and torture porny as I remember. It's a little less torture porny than the Saw movies. I like it better than most of the Saw movies, but it's not bad. Actually, The Collector is a good one. The Collection is the one I'm referring to. I wasn't too fond of that one, even though people say they like it more. Aiden has a question. Says, do you have a favorite Super Mario game? I would say probably Super Mario World. Without getting too deep into it. But yeah, Super Mario World. I have a nostalgic attachment to it, but I also think it's the best 2D Mario game for sure. Aiden asks, when you get a DVD or a Blu-ray, in one of those flimsy eco cases, do you replace the eco case with a better, sturdier case, or do you just accept it? I just accept it. Frankly, if the case breaks, I will replace it. But yeah, it bugs me that they do that. But also at the same time, it's fine. I wish they would just make the cases a little thinner overall. But whatever. Honestly, it really doesn't bug me. And I'd wager the vast majority of these Blu-rays have those eco cases at this point, right? So, hey, if it's actually doing something to lower pollution, I'd be for it. But most of the time when these things are marketed this way as saving the environment, it's a bunch of bureaucratic bullshit. And I don't buy it anymore. I'm cynical as fuck when it comes to that shit. Here we have a really good Lovecraft adaptation here that I saw right after I read the novel, or I should say the short story novella type thing for the first time. And I thought that, what's his name? Richard Stanley, Australian director, I want to say, directed Hardware, didn't he? Yeah, Richard Stanley. I just want to make sure I got my directors in a row. Color Out of Space. Richard Stanley comes out of like semi-retirement to direct this, and he directs the hell out of it. It's an awesome, colorful, and vibrant film that tries to describe visually. How do I say? In the novel, in the short story, Lovecraft describes this color as something that's unimaginable. You can't describe it, right? And it works in a novel form on paper because you could imagine in your head what this color could possibly be. Stanley's able to visualize it into this weird, purplish, pinkish, bluish. It's a bunch of obvious colors on the spectrum, but it blends together to create a very unique atmosphere. And this is about this alien thing hitting Earth, crashing to Earth, and then terraforming the area around it, changing the area around it, making it more alive, vivacious, again, to use that word, making things grow bigger. Apples are 10 times their size, and it seems like this is like a wonderful thing that's happening. Or is it? I wrote a review on this actually on Letterboxd. I have it. It's a pretty long review, and I think it's the review I have on Letterboxd that has the most watches or likes or whatever you call it. But how often do I watch horror films? Well, that's actually what I was saying. I'm very unique with the way that I kind of. Ooh, my hair looks like shit. Watch my movies. I'm kind of impulsive. So, and I get into kicks. So, for example, right now, I'm in a bit of a 2000s comedies kick. Last month it was Hong Kong action films. The month before it was Japanese action films. The month before it was something else. I'm always going through these little fads or these phases. And so I haven't had a horror phase in about 6 months. And so that'll give you an idea. Horror is my favorite genre, it might be, but I still don't watch nothing but horror. I get into moods, and I usually for about 2 weeks to a month, I'll watch the same type of film and really, explore the genre. That's kind of how I am. Yeah, one of your favorite Lovecraft movies, says Lucy. I agree with that. Here we have, Dave says, is it only on occasions like Halloween? No, certainly not. Yeah, like I said, usually, frankly, Dave, usually how it goes is October, I watch a bunch of horror films, and usually around this time, I get back into a horror kick. It's almost clockwork. It's scary. I'll tell you, the other night, 4th of July, I got in the mood to watch Idiocracy. So I was like, I'm watching 2000s horror. Let's watch Idiocracy again. I remember it holding up well. Let's watch it again. I like that movie. And so I go to log it once I'm done watching it. Awesome comedy. Very prescient and funny and irreverent. I go to log it on my Letterboxd, and guess what? 2 years ago, I watched Idiocracy on July 4th. So 2 years later, subconsciously, maybe it's some sort of long-form habit, I watched it on the 4th of July again, unconsciously, subconsciously, didn't even realize it. And that happens more often than I'm describing. It happens, quite frankly, a lot, where I'll look to see when the last time I watched a movie was, and it was in the same month, in the same week, and I'm like, that is so freaking weird. Very strange. I think there's a lot about us humans that we don't understand, that we call spooky. South Africa, Richard Stanley is from. Thank you. I thought okay, yeah, fair enough. One of those UK, British colonized areas, yes. Belated 4th of July. Thank you. I do appreciate that. America. Love this country, and I hate this country in equal parts because of its all of its flaws. But I love all of the things that make this country great. But we're losing those, I'll tell you. Celebrating the 4th of July with a movie about intellectual demise of the U.S. is crazy. I know. And it speaks to who I am in ways, if you guys, knew me outside of the podcast, which you've gotten to know me a little bit better, it speaks very much to how I feel about things right now. It's so funny. With a movie about the intellectual demise of the U.S. is crazy. Well, he was spot on. What can you say? Look at what's happening in this country. I mean, we're losing our minds, frankly. All of us in different ways. Here we have Come Out and Play. This is a remake of, what's it called? It's got some crazy title. The old Mexican horror film. Or is it? Yeah, I want to say it's Mexican. Let's see. It's like, I don't know. It's about a village full of kids who are killing the adults or took over the village. I don't exactly know. I've not seen the original or the remake. I think this is the remake. Yeah, it's the remake. Here we have, I think, the only film in my collection that doesn't have its title on the bind, which is confounding. But The Company of Wolves, Neil Jordan film doing horror. He did a few horror films, and this one is probably my favorite of the ones I've seen. This is an anthology film that flips the sort of Grimm's fairy tales and the old fairy tales on their heads and gives us something very unique with great practical effects and great atmosphere. Very biting, satirical tone to this anthology film, for sure. The Conjuring, I love The Conjuring. I remember watching this for the first time when I had been, admittedly, this came out at a time where I was pretty disappointed in where horror was and where I thought it was going. And then James Wan drops this, and in my opinion, James Wan helped reinvigorate horror for that decade. This came out in 2013. And I remember sitting down and watching this by myself at night with a drink when I drank, and I was looking over my shoulder every 10 minutes because this movie really got under my skin and creeped me out in a way that movies had stopped doing for many years. Horror movies had stopped doing for many years. Maybe I was desensitized. Maybe I've trained myself back to being frightened. Definitely some of that there, but this was a legitimately good horror movie with traditional values, traditional filmmaking techniques that are honed and expertly done by James Wan. I always say he's a master of the trope. Wan could take a trope when he was in his prime here and turn that trope into something that feels fresh. And I think that's what his skill was, his sort of his master stroke was doing that. And Conjuring 2 is good as well. It's got some strange tonal shifts that I think work okay, but it is a little odd. And it's a little bit more hopeful, I'd say, than the first one. And that I like less because I'm more of a dreary kind of horror. I like my horror movies to end poorly, usually. Poorly for the characters, that is. Malignant is fucking amazing. Malignant blew my mind. That movie's nuts. I think it's awesome. It's like John Wick horror movie with crazy twists and, so fucking weird. Werewolf in London aside, says, what's your favorite werewolf film? The Wolfman from 1941. It's an easy one. With Lon Chaney Jr. I don't drink anymore. No, I've been sober from alcohol for 3 years. Going on 3 years. I quit cold turkey because I was drinking a couple beers a day for like a couple months when my dog got sick. I'll be honest, I was drinking like 3 beers a day. Heavy beers, like heavy IPA stuff, and it wasn't a good habit, so I had to break it. And the only way I could break habits is cold turkey, so that's what I did. Do I miss it? I do miss it, though. No one's asking if I miss it. I'm asking myself. I do miss it. But I'm not sure. I have a very addictive and dependent personality, thanks to my father and my Irish, my Irish heritage, but and Italian, frankly. Both sides of my family, there's a lot of alcoholism. Jack Nicholson wolf film. Yeah, that one is a good one. Who Can Kill a Child, Lucy? Thank you so much. You're so good at this stuff. Malignant's awesome. Very long time ago, Mike. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. If you could do it, well done. Yeah, well, I've done it. I'm not perfect, trust me. I have my flaws, but I have plenty of them. My dog hurt me like that, too. Yeah, it hurts. It's not an easy thing. Let's get back to the, before I start getting emotional here. It's still kind of fresh for me, so. Here we have Constantine. I love Constantine. Constantine is a fun movie. Is it a horror film? It's got horror elements. It's more of an action film with horror elements, supernatural elements, like Catholic, mythology, dare I say. Keanu Reeves, it's awesome. He's got this super cool Tommy gun crucifix weapon I love. This is a fun movie. I'm sure this will get a reboot at some point. I know it had some animated films. It had like a TV show, if I'm not mistaken. But I still like this movie, and it doesn't get talked about as much these days in terms of Keanu Reeves action films. Gungshi says, Mike, have you seen Bring Her Back? No, that's the sequel to Talk to Me, right? I do want to see that. Aussie movie, Talk to Me. Yep, it's pretty brutal and bleak. You'll love it. Sounds good. Yeah, the first one was fucking bleak. I actually hoped it was going to end even bleaker than it ended. But there was a little bit of hope at the end, mixed with a heavy dose of fate and atrocity. But no, I liked Talk to Me quite a bit. A solid 3.5 out of 5. I thought it was good. Yeah, I do have an addictive personality, unfortunately. Thanks to my papa, who was very bad with all that stuff. Let's see. Oh, no, I'm not sad. I'm just playing, guys. I have full control of my emotions. I'm not saying that, these things don't bug me every once in a while. I'm a human. Of course they do. When they come up or when I dream of him or I remember my puppy. It's the same thing with humans. The humans that we've lost, we dream of them, and, we get emotional, but we understand the reality. Here, it's funny that we're talking about Bring Her Back when we're talking about my dead dog, too. That's, rest in peace, Rocky. He was a fighter. All right, here we have Count Yorga collection. I love the first Count Yorga. It's like this erudite vampire, this sort of like socialite vampire who lures rich people in to party and then he sucks their blood. The sequel I actually have yet to see, but it still takes place. Oh, it's San Francisco, sorry. The first one's Los Angeles. Second one's San Francisco. Okay, I had it right. And very unique movie because it's sort of like the upper class feeding on the lower classes, quite literally. That's right, it's like lower class people he invites, I think, and like literally feeds on them. So an obvious allegory there. Yeah, I hear you, Dave. Well, hey, man, take solace in the fact that, you know, a lot of people go through it. I went through it. You're strong. We're strong. Be strong, you know, because life is not for the faint of heart. I'm 38, and I've learned that the very hard way. Shank says, is Bring Her Back a sequel to Talk to Me? Yes, it is. Dave says, do you pick up films at yard garage sales, as we call them here? Yeah, definitely, when I can get my ass up and go to them. Hang on, he was called Rocky. That was my dog's name, too. Okay, that just got weird. It just got weird, Dave. Yeah, well, his name was Roxas, and over the years, I called him Rocky because he was hurt a lot and sick a lot and was going to die a lot, and he kept fighting through it, and I called him Rocky anyway, so I thought Rocky was a great name because it was obviously an allusion to the movie and the fighter, but Roxas from Kingdom Hearts was his original name, which was given to him by an ex-girlfriend, and then I kind of, you know, when I was mad at him, I went, Roxas, you know, but his name was Rocky. Rocky and his real name is Roxas, but that's my boy Rocky, too. Let's see. That is strange, though, I'll say. Do you agree that On Her Majesty's Secret Service has the best Bond theme? No. It's good, but I have other favorites. I love A View to a Kill. I love The Living Daylights. I love Goldfinger. I love GoldenEye. I like all of them for different reasons. To pick a best one, I'd have to really think about that. Here we have Countdown. I don't think I've seen Countdown, but it's one of those American techno horror films, heavily inspired by what the Japanese were doing in the 90s and to early 2000s. So, I understand, Jolly Good. Yeah, let's try to. There's too much negativity. Let's try to be positive here. The only Aussie Bond, is that right? Lazenby was Australian, huh? Interesting. All right, so here we have The Craft, a super fun movie with super hot chicks doing super cool witchcraft and getting in way over their heads. Some of them like it, some of them don't. Some of them want to get out, some of them love the power. It's a great little teen high school movie with supernatural elements, and can't go wrong with The Craft. I love it. Some really classic sequences in that movie. And, yeah, positive vibes, exactly. Here we have a really fun movie by Alexandra Aja, who makes nothing but fun horror movies, in my humble opinion. I like his work. I've always liked his work, even going back to House of Wax. I thought it was a pretty good remake. Damn good remake, actually, if I'm being honest. Crawl is great. It just follows this woman. There's a flood, I want to say in Florida. These giant crocs are released, and she's got to survive, and she does so. And we got these giant CG crocs that look good, creepy as hell. It's a bottle movie, so it all kind of takes place in one place. I love that kind of stuff. Simple horror, simple eco-horror there. The Crazies, again, Timothy Olyphant's in this. A very, very good remake. Brett Eisner of the original George A. Romero film, which I like, but I want to say I like the remake a little bit more. Which movie is ridiculously 90s? Which one? Oh, The Craft? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, in all the right ways, am I right? Hills Have Eyes remake is very disturbing. I'd love to have that on the Blue, but I don't. I have the original trilogy. I'd love to have the new one on Blu-ray one of these days. All right, I've got about 20% battery here. I gotta get moving. Creepazoids. Sorry, guys. I had a full charge and whatever. Creepazoids. This is Full Moon. I have done the Full Moon streaming service thing twice to get like 6 Blu-rays for $50 and a year of streaming, or 10 Blu-rays, I think it was. So I did that twice, and that's how I have all these brand new Full Moon movies. And then the Puppet Master was the third time I did it. So there you go. Creepazoid's great low-budget aliens ripoff, takes place in a bunker. It's fun. It is what it is. But here we have The Creeps. I've yet to see this. Deformed Monsters, but this one is directed by the legend, Charles Band. I think this one, that's David Dakota. Here we have Creepshow, the classic anthology film, of course, with Leslie Nielsen and Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau. George Romero directs this based on an original screenplay by Stephen King. So a team-up, match made in heaven, and all of these stories are good. Especially the birthday cake one. That's the memorable one for me. And the one with Tony Danza. Is that the same one? That one with Leslie Nielsen playing a really sinister role, which was unique for me at the time because I knew him from Naked Gun and Airplane, and Wrongfully Accused in the 90s. I used to do pizza back when I ate cheese. I loved pineapple pizza. I loved it. I would get it all the time. Critters Attack. This is what, the fifth Critters film maybe. I don't know much about it. David Cronenberg, early works here. So Transfer, From the Drain, and then those are 2 short films, and then 2 feature-length films, Stereo and Crimes of the Future. Yes, he has 2 films now called Crimes of the Future. I think they're thematically similar, but I don't think the new Crimes of the Future film is a remake of his original 1970 student film. I could be wrong. I'm not sure how closely they are related, but I haven't seen any of these, frankly. Savoring them. I've seen almost all of his work, so M. Butterfly and some of his early work I've yet to see. What's the one? Fast Company, or... here we have Cube, the Canadian classic, I would say. This is a great, great horror film with a really great conception, really cool ideas. Before Saw. Saw definitely took some pages from this book, that's for sure. And I've seen this film a few times. I'm a big proponent of Vincenzo Natali's work. He has gone to television, and I'm sure he's doing great work there, like The Peripheral. But I prefer his movies because I'm more of a movie guy, like Nothing and like Cube and Cypher. Probably my favorite Natali film is Cypher. He did Splice. I love all of his films, and he had such a unique and dark and twisted science fiction take. And I really thought it was almost a cynical and nihilistic take in a lot of his horror films. I thought they were great. Paranoid, and yeah, just awesome. Here we have Cujo, a movie about a killer dog. You know, it is what it is. I haven't seen it since I was a boy. The Curse of La Llorona. This is like a Mexican legend, I want to say. Don't know much about this. I think this is in the same universe as The Conjuring. Yep, it is. La Maldición. La Maldición means cursed. This is actually Cursed, the Wes Craven werewolf film, which I think is underrated because of the Scream films that were coming out around this time that he was releasing, at least the first 3, right? I think he directed all 3, or did Kevin Williamson direct the 3rd? Either way, this is also written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven, so it's still that match made in heaven. And it's not as much of a deconstruction of the werewolf genre, but it does serve as that for a little bit. And this is just a fun, over-the-top werewolf movie that you can't go wrong with. All right, so next up we have Dagon. Dagon is probably one of my favorite Stuart Gordon films, at least. This is a classic, in my opinion, based on the Lovecraft short story, Dagon. Was it the name of the short story is Dagon? I'm pretty sure. No, it's Shadow over Innsmouth, I want to say. And I've read the story. The story is absolutely spellbinding and beautifully horrific. And the movie fits into that category too. And the same descriptors could describe this film. Dagon is one of those, again, Stuart Gordon films that walks the tightrope of horror and comedy in such a way that I don't think many other directors can successfully do. This at once will make you laugh out loud, and then it'll make you feel a way about a character where, how do I say this? The violence that's portrayed in this movie is so effective. Once you get to know these characters and they start dying in terrible ways and horrible ways with great makeup effects, it's very effective, still to this day. I think this is a great movie. The Dark, I've yet to see The Dark. But I sold off my DVDs years ago to get this Blu-ray here. This is a Bud Cardos film. Can't go wrong with Bud Cardos, meaning, aka you can every time. But it's always fun. Dark Angel, this is a Dolph Lundgren action horror film that you can't go wrong with. Craig R. Baxley, a great action director from the 80s and 90s. let's see. To the alien that has arrived on Earth, humans represent ideal drug factories because of our endorphins. I'm trying to remember the plot. It's been a while. I just remember it being badass. I like it. Dark Angel. This is one of the weirdest and probably better full moon films. This is a very unique and creative film that has a very strange story that is told. I don't remember too much, but I just remember walking away feeling very good about this movie. Directed by a female. There aren't many female directors doing stuff for Full Moon, not that I remember. But Linda Hassani. This is, honestly, a really good film, and you could tell the director had a lot of control over their own work, which is great. So, Dagon rules, absolutely. Do I find horror movies comforting? Absolutely. Yes. Most of the time, yes. 90s film with Paul Reiser called The Tower. Tower of Terror, was it? Or... yeah, it was like a Disney Tower of Terror, or Steve Guttenberg was in that. I'm not sure. Oh, Chud? Yeah, cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Yeah, I love Chud. Chud's awesome. Let's see. I was just catching up on the comments here, guys. I'm seeing the love for Dagon. That's awesome. Used to be afraid of the dark, but not as a teenager and an adult. Not anymore. Hey, you should be afraid of the dark. The dark is absolutely terrifying. That's where all of our nightmares and scary ideas come from. Our primal fear of the dark. Don't underestimate the dark. I still kind of am, Jolly. Is the dark Blu-ray region free? Looks interesting. I don't think that it is. It's a MVD. It is region free. MVD. There you go. You can pick it up. The same exact one. All right. Next up, let me check my battery, folks. We've got 16. We should be good. What? They're in there, T. I don't know where I put them. The Dark Half. This is George A. Romero. I have seen this. It's been a long time. I want to say this is sort of like a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing based on a Stephen King. It was almost like Stephen King's Jekyll and Hyde. I want to say this guy was born with conjoined twins, and one of them was removed, or was it? It's been a while, guys. I have to rewatch that one. Dark Was the Night. I remember enjoying this as a sort of mediocre or above average horror film. Kind of a werewolf mystery kind of film here. I like Kevin Durant, and seeing him in a lead role I thought was pretty cool. So, not bad. Here we have Dark Night of the Scarecrow. This is a classic TV movie, actually. One of the great TV movies from the 70s. The 70s was fraught with great classic TV horror movies. Like Bad Ronald and Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and that one's for you, Jolly. Here we have a fun performance by Larry Drake there. And yeah, this is a classic. I don't have much to say about it. It's been a long time. Dark Shadows, Tim Burton. Haven't seen it, can't speak to it. I like this is a solid 3 out of 5. This little conspiracy UFO horror thriller. Weird shit starts happening to this family. Things get weirder and weirder. Aliens come into play. You know, the crazy conspiracy kooks come into play with their long monologues. This monologue in particular is done by J.K. Simmons, who has no business being in a film like this, but he gave it his all, and it shows. It's a great little scene of exposition. It's an exposition dump, granted, but I'm a sucker for the Gray's alien horror films. I've got tons of them. Dark Knight of Scarecrows from the 80s. Is it? Okay, thank you for the correction. What am I thinking of? Was this even a TV movie? I might be conflating this with Town That Dreaded Sundown. Yeah, it's been a while for a lot of these films, but thank you. Was this 1980? 81. There you go. Okay. Thank you for the correction, guys. I am human. I do make mistakes. And Lucy, I can always count on you to pick me up. All right. Red one. Yeah, red one. Oof. Yeah, that was a rough one. Here we have Dawn of the Dead by Zack Snyder, the remake, where he switched things up and gave us these crazy running zombies. Not unlike 28 Days Later, but to bring that to the Dawn of the Dead franchise, the Dead franchise, Romero's classic franchise, was unique for the time and really created a different vibe for these films. And Are these as good as the Romero films? Is this as good as the Romero films? No, but it's a damn good zombie film and a great remake, I would say. Day of the Dead. This is the classic George Romero Day of the Dead film, obviously. Night of the Living Dead, I have in my Criterion collection, which is, I have in a box actually right now. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get like a small shelf for it. And and then I have Dawn of the Dead over there. Then we have Land of the Dead, which I like. I like Land of the Dead. Diary of the Dead is one that I can't help but watch over and over because it's a bit of a train wreck. I find it entertaining, but it is not a good movie. It is a found footage zombie movie and probably one of the worst uses of found footage I've ever seen. I get it. Romero he just wanted to do a found footage film. I'm fine with that. Survival of the Dead, I like this one. It's the way I would go, guys. Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of Living Dead, Land of the Dead, Survival, and then Diary. That's probably how most people go, but I know I'm a little different with how I feel about the original Night of Living Dead. I love it. It's just, my third favorite. Yeah, Tom Savini's Night of Living Dead is awesome. Yeah, that was a very good one. I'd love to have that on Blu-ray. I don't think I do. No. I don't even know if I have it on DVD anymore. Daughters of Darkness. This is, I want to say, no, it's not Hammer. It's a German horror film, actually. Looks like lots of boobs are going to be in that one, which I'm fine with. Every once in a while I watch an erotic horror film, but not very often. It's not really my genre. Here we have Daybreakers, a really cool film by the Spierig brothers about this like almost Matrix-like future where the vampires are trying to get the blood, and I don't know, it just has it's like science fiction meets vampire story. It's almost like Underworld in a sense. And I remember liking it. Ethan Hawke, not bad. Dawn of the Dead remake was pretty darn good. I agree with that, Burley. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. Guessing you'd have the people under the stairs. Oh, of course I do. That's one of my favorites. That was 1990, that film. People Under the Stairs came out, yes. And so was the Night of the Living Dead remake, yeah. Here we have The Dead, a film I've not yet to see. This is a Ford Brothers movie, whoever they are. I feel like I've seen something by those guys. Anyway, Dead Ant. This one looks so cool to me with its practical giant ant effects and some CG, obviously, there. But I think it blends CG with animatronics or practical effects. Tom Arnold, Jake Busey, Sydney Sweeney, Sean Astin. This is like a road movie with giant killer ants. I'm sure it will be fun. Yeah, exactly. I was going to do the Pink Panther joke again, Jolly, but I don't want to turn into my dad too quickly. I watched that late one night. It had a cool soundtrack. Nice. Which one? Was it The Dead or Dead Ant? Sorry, I go so fast sometimes. Here's Dead Before Dawn, a film that I've watched, but it was a long time ago, around when it came out, so it's been quite some time. I can't speak on it. One of the most underrated horror films of all time, especially of the 80s, despite it coming out in 81. Dead and Buried. This film absolutely exudes atmosphere and fog. It's like this, it takes place in this foggy northeastern, almost Maine, like fishing port town. And there's always fog around. It's always hard the visibility's low to discern what's in the distance. And some weird things are going on with people coming back from the dead. You have the mortician here, who is played by an incredible performance by Jack Albertson. James Ferrantino plays the perfect cop trying to investigate what the hell's going on while everybody is just kind of asleep at the wheel, and maybe or maybe not for good reason. Gary A. Sherman directs the hell out of this Twilight Zone-esque film, and this has one of the great endings in horror movie history, in my opinion. So, The Stairs movie, yes. One Cut of the Dead, yes, I have. I watched it pretty recently, and it was awesome. I have some qualms with it, the way its narrative was structured, but I think it's a great film, and I understand why they structured the narrative the way they did. It's actually pretty clever, but a little redundant, I suppose. The eye scene in Dead and Buried, yuck. Yes, exactly. You know where it's at. Here we have Dead End Drive-In, a film that I watched back in the day. Not really a horror film, more of like a futuristic, dystopian, political thriller, like teen thriller. It's a very unique, Australian film where there's this future where these kids all hang out, but it's kind of like controlled by the government. It's almost like a fun concentration camp or something. You know, it's like one of those types of things. It's kind of like Mad Max, exploitation, it says on the back here. This one's directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who would do the sequel to one of my favorite horror films of all time. I think he did the sequel. Yes, he did. Which is Night of the Demons, which I have somewhere there. 10% battery. All right. Dead Heat, a film that my father and I watched when I was growing up multiple times. He showed this to me when I was way too young, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It creeped me out a little bit, for sure, like a lot of these horror comedies did at the time, because I didn't really get down with the humor aspect of them, because I didn't understand that, I guess, that concept of a horror comedy. When I was very young, I saw this very young, guys. Like, I'm talking like 6 or 7. Mark Goldblatt directs this film. I want to say Mark Goldblatt was mostly an editor. I remember seeing his name all the time in the 90s. And Darren McGavin stars in this one. Vincent Price actually has a bit role in this. And but Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo are the reason to see this film. The chemistry here, is it perfect? No, but it's good enough, and I love seeing these two go kill some zombies. Piscopo was known for his SNL days, a super buff guy, but also a funny guy. And Treat Williams is just always a treat, no pun intended, to watch. Death of Me, this is a Darren Lynn Bousman film. Not a big fan of his work. I hear good things about Death of Me, though. It's been recommended to me. Dead Mine. This is kind of an action film that takes place, looks like, in the tomb of the first emperor of Japan. What was it? The Jin Dynasty? The Shin Dynasty? I could be getting that wrong. Let's see. It looks like the terracotta soldiers. Anyway, I don't know really what this is about, if I'm being honest. Here we have The Dead Next Door. This is an independent little horror zombie film from the 80s by J.R. Bookwalter, who did a bunch of films. This is his most popular one, the one that's supposed to be the best. I love that cover. It's definitely an enticing cover. It's like, what the hell is this all about? Why does the zombie have a muzzle? It's kind of cool. I like it. Wise Guys with Danny DeVito. That's right. Yes, Wise Guys. Yeah, I haven't seen that in quite some time either. I remember liking it, though. Here we have The Dead Pit by Brett Leonard. This is a classic. I think this is a classic. I've always thought this was a great classic 80s horror movie here. The Dead Pit takes place at an insane asylum, or is it like insane. It's a mental health facility, they say on the back. 20 years later, the hospital is up and running again, and Jane Doe arrives at the institute with amnesia. Upon her arrival, a major earthquake rocks the building and unearths the now undead Dr. Ramsey and his legion of zombie patients. Oh, it's so cool. So yeah, it's like a zombie film that takes place at a hospital with a whole bunch of undead patients and doctors. It's pretty cool. David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers I have seen on DVD. Great performance by Jeremy Irons. Performances by Jeremy Irons. He plays twins. 2 twins that are very different, but also alike in many ways. He nails the role. It's incredible. Is this a horror film? It gets close to being a horror film, but it's not a true horror film. It has horror elements, and it has a couple of those shots that you're like, oh yeah, that's Cronenberg. There it is. But mostly it's a psychological drama / thriller. And it's really worth seeing for Jeremy Irons playing a dual role as these gynecologist twins. So, sounds like a Cronenberg movie, doesn't it? Here we have a Canadian film called Dead Shack. And obviously play on the old song Love Shack here. And it's not bad. I remember enjoying this for its practical effects, its chemistry with the cast. Usually those 2 things can carry me through an independent film if the cast is good and they work together well. And I think that's something that's emphasized in good independent films. I think filmmakers understand that you have to have good characters with good chemistry. And if people are watching an independent horror film, we want good practical effects, or at least good effects in general. And last, but certainly not least, for today, for part 2 of the horror collection on Blu-ray, is Dead Snow, the German, I dare to say classic at this point, of the Nazis, zombies coming back to life and killing off these characters one by one in this snowy landscape. This has one scene in it, you guys know what I'm talking about, where a woman gets thrown down a snowy cliff and ends up buried under the snow, and she's not sure whether she is upside down or right side up, and nor does the audience. And as you start to notice the details of her, we'll say her nose running and sort of like the spit coming out of her mouth and the way that it's going, you realize she's upside down. And then the camera does this turn and completely fucks you up and disorients you. And the film has plenty of those really cool cinematic moments. Tommy Vercola has a keen sense of horror and comedy and walks that line very well. This is a great movie, great zombie classic. You can't go wrong with Dead Snow. Alrighty, guys. Whew. That's another, I said I was only going to do an hour and a half, but I'm doing almost 2 hours. And, what you doing, bud?
Saying hey to everyone.
You coming in here? All right, I'm going to go over here.
I wanted to say hi.
No,
Yeah,
no.
hi, guys.
Okay. All right, so, fucking up my flow. Anyways, yeah, you wish that was true. Anyways, I'm chilling now. I just talked for 2 hours straight. It's always exhausting, but now I'm going to chill. I just want to say thank you all very much for tuning into this live stream, and thank you for everybody who watches this on the archive rerun. I would really, really appreciate it if you guys could hit that thumbs up button. We've got 9 right now, and we have 10. Thank you so much. If we could get it up a little bit more, I mean the thumbs up. Get the thumbs up a little bit more. That would be awesome. That really helps me with exposure, and I think that's what makes people see the live streams. And so thank you all very much for doing so. And if you're new to this channel, I know a few new people have strolled in, and I really appreciate that. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, the little bell for notifications, if you want to be notified as to when I go live, which I've been doing a couple times a week at least. Hey, Challenge Express, thanks for tuning in. You did miss the entire live stream, but don't worry, you could catch it on the archive. That's my brother's channel, by the way. He's trolling. All right, folks. I love you. I love you all. Thank you, guys. I could talk about movies, but boy, can I talk about horror. 2 shelves took me 2 hours. 1 hour per shelf. So at this rate, we've got, I think, 7 more shelves or something. So, you know me. I'm a bit long-winded. That's why I can't end this video. Anyways, guys, I appreciate all of you very much. I will see you all very soon. I'm going to try to schedule one for tomorrow. If not, it'll be the next day. Most likely tomorrow, though. So thank you, guys. I will see you all next time. Bored Cyborg is out. Thanks for all the love, folks. I really appreciate it. Peace.